In March 14, 1879, Albert Einstein was born in Ulm, a city in Germany. His father's name was Hermann Einstein, who was a salesman and engineer. Hermann Einstein founded together with his brother a company which focused on the mass production of electrical equipment. His mother, Pauline Koch, was a housewife. Einstein had one sister called Maya, who was born 2 years after him. Einstein attended the elementary school at the Ludwig-Gymnasium in Munich. In his first years in school, however, his teachers labeled him as uninterested and hard to learn. The problem was that Einstein was interested in only some of all the subjects. While mathematics and physics caught his mind very early, he showed a lack of interest in learning foreign languages. Einstein described his school years as follows: "School failed me, and I failed the school. It bored me. The teachers behaved like Feldwebel, which means surgeons. I want to learn what I wanted to know, but they wanted me to learn for the exam." In the 1880s, Max Talmud, a Polish medical student, started to tutor the young Einstein. Talmud introduced an academic paper to Einstein which led him to think about the nature of light, which later on paved the way to his first paper, The Investigation of the State of Ether and Magnetic Fields. In the 1890s, Einstein's father, together with his family, moved to Milan, a city in Italy, since his business was not going well and went bankrupt. Einstein himself was left in Munich with his relatives to be able to finish his school. For school, he still had a lack of interest to a point where the school administration wanted him to leave, since he started to become a bad example to other pupils. When he became old enough to attend his military duty in Germany, he showed a fake report to the administration written by a doctor that he is suffering from nervous exhaustion. With this, he was able to rejoin his family in Italy. However, he still wanted to work on the field of mathematics by himself and decided to become a math teacher. With this, he could continue to study math and physics on his own without doing something else that was not in his interest. After some time, he applied to the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, Switzerland. In his first attempt, he failed to pass the exam. On top of that, he had to finish his high school education first to be able to get an admission. Therefore, he attended a high school in Aura, Switzerland. There, he lived with the schoolmaster's family. The following year, he made a second attempt for admission and was accepted by the institute. During that time, Einstein became a Swiss citizen and renounced his German citizenship. After his graduation from the institute, Einstein was having a hard time to find an academic position, since he preferred to study on his own, not attending many classes during his education and therefore having very low contacts with his professors. In 1902, he got a job in a Swiss patent office where he was able to earn himself some money. In 1903, he married a woman called Mileva Maric. Maric was also a physics student at the Federal Institute in Zurich, where they got to know each other. While Einstein was having feelings towards Maric, his parents were against the marriage since she was having another ethnic background. Einstein's father died in 1902, so the couple was able to marry 1 year later on January 6, 1903. Together they had 3 children, one daughter called Liesel, whose exact fate is unknown, and 2 sons called Hans Albert Einstein and Eduard Einstein. In 1905, he published 4 papers in one of the best-known magazines about physics called Annalen der Physik. 2 of them focused on the issues of photoelectronic effect and the Brownian motion. The other 2 papers, which later on led to his fame, are the outline of the formula E is m times c squared and the theory of relativity. Einstein was not really happy in his marriage with Maric, so after years, in 1919, they decided to divorce. Since Maric was having an emotional breakdown, Einstein agreed to give her any funds that he would receive if he wins the Nobel Prize. In 1921, Einstein won the Nobel Prize for Physics since he was able to explain the photoelectronic effect. After bureaucratic issues, he was able to get his prize officially after 1 year. His theory of relativity did not get major attention, since it was still questioned by many scientists. However, today Einstein is best known for his theory of relativity and his equation E is m times c squared, which later on would open the path for atomic power and atomic bombs. With this equation, the suggestion was made that little particles were able to be transformed into huge amounts of energy. Max Planck, another famous scientist at that time, was supporting Einstein with his new revolutionary ideas, which opened the way for Einstein becoming the director of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics from 1917 to 1933, which is today known as the Max Planck Institute. In terms of political history, one should know that Albert Einstein was Jewish, and with the rise of the Nazis in 1933, his life was threatened. The Nazis took over all his belongings in Germany and labeled his work as Jewish physics, while he was for research in England. As life-saving measures, he accepted an offer from the Princeton University and migrated to the United States. In terms of nationalism, Einstein himself never had any racial thought, saying, "I do not believe in race as such. Race is a fraud. All modern people are the conglomeration of so many ethnic mixtures that no pure race remains." When he was in the US, he decided to dedicate himself to the academic field, giving less importance to his image, dress, or hair. Such things were inessential for him and only wasting time that could be used for his studies. In 1935, Einstein was granted residency and became a citizen of the United States. With the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939, Einstein wrote a letter to President Roosevelt about the prospect of an atomic bomb because he was thinking that Nazi Germany was about to develop an atomic bomb themselves, ready to use at any time. Roosevelt considered Einstein's suggestions and started the Manhattan Project, a project where many scientists, together with the US Army, were developing an atomic bomb. After the Second World War, however, Einstein regretted to suggest such a destructive weapon by saying, "Had I known that the Germans would not succeed in producing an atomic bomb, I would have lifted a finger." In the 1940s, Einstein became a member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, since he saw parallels in the treatment of black people in the US with the treatment of Jewish people in Nazi Germany. During his years in the US, Einstein more and more isolated himself from social life to concentrate on science and new explorations in the field of physics. With the establishment of Israel in 1948, Einstein described himself as a Zionist socialist. He supported the establishment of the Jewish state but was against its nationalistic views. In 1952, he was offered to become president of Israel. However, he declined with the words, "Neither the natural ability nor the experience to deal with human beings. I am deeply moved by the offer from our state of Israel, and at once saddened and ashamed that I cannot accept it." In 1955, Albert Einstein died in the age of 76 in the Princeton Hospital. His last words were said to a nurse that didn't speak German. Therefore, these words, unfortunately, will never be known.